Welcome everyone to virtual previews and to Making the Most of Williams. Thanks so much for being here today, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Today's session will be recorded and posted to the Welcome at Williams website next week, and we'll also be using closed captioning throughout the event. My name is Liz Creighton. I'm Dean of Admission and Financial Aid at Williams, and on behalf of the entire Williams community, congratulations again on your acceptance, and thank you for being here today. I'm so thrilled that you've been able to carve out time to spend with us. I hope some of you were able to join us last night and will be able to join us later today. And I'm also thrilled that you'll have the opportunity to meet two terrific colleagues of mine who are centrally involved in work that goes on campus to support students both during their transition to Williams and during their time here. So Ngoni and Marlene, could I ask you to introduce yourselves?
Certainly. Hello, everyone. I hope you and those that are dear to you are well and safe during this time. My name is Ngoni Munebo, Ngoni Zashe, if you're brave. I'm a professor in the political science department, and I also chair the Global Studies program. Right now, I'm serving as interim vice president for institutional diversity, equity, and inclusion. I've been at Williams since fall of 2007. That makes me kind of among some of the old folks on campus, I guess. Today, I just wanted to share a little bit about the work of the office of institutional diversity, equity, and inclusion, to give you a sense of who we are, what we do in service of making Williams a place that every student, staff, and faculty member who comes here may thrive. We do that by way of working towards eliminating harmful bias and discrimination, closing opportunity gaps where they may exist, and advancing critical conversations and initiatives that promote inclusion, equity, social justice on campus and beyond. And these introductory remarks, I want to touch on just a couple of the ways in which we do this work. The Vice President's office is geared towards assessing and improving campus climate. It helps lead the development and implementation of campus policies. So shut down my notifications here, excuse me. Helps lead the development and implementation of campus policies, procedures, and practices impacting students, faculty, and staff. Develops and supports efforts to recruit, retain, and develop a diverse faculty, staff, and student body, as well as facilitating discussions around diversity, equity, and inclusion in the community, in addition to resolving conflicts and grievances when they do occur. Much of this work centers around or is done through two departments attached to the office. Our Davis Center, which is at other campuses might be named multicultural centers, which advances broad campus engagement with complex issues of identity, history, and cultures as they affect the intellectual, creative, and social lives of primarily students, but not only students, and our Office of Special Academic Programs, which aims to ensure that all students thrive academically at Williams and beyond by providing opportunities and programs that work towards eradicating racial and socioeconomic disparities in higher education outcomes. So I will start with those sort of prefatory remarks about the work of the office, and happy to follow up in greater detail during the Q&A part.
Hello, everyone. I am Marlene Sandstrom. I am a faculty member in the psychology department and the dean of the college here at Williams. Congratulations to all of the students and families And I'm really looking forward to meeting you at some point soon. I actually came to Williams in a previous century to Ngoni. So when he said that he was old, it made me a little uncomfortable. I came here in 1999, so I've been here a while. And I oversee, as Dean of the College, a cluster of offices and programs that are responsible for supporting students. One of those offices is the Dean of Students office, which organizes the First Days orientation program, the big welcoming event for first years when they come to campus for the first time. And the Dean of Students office also organizes first and second year academic advising for all students. The Dean's office also provides ongoing individual and group support for students throughout their time at Williams. And in addition to the Dean of Students office, I oversee a constellation of other programs that focus on student support and student opportunities. So the Office of Campus Life, which organizes housing and student organizations, student events, academic engagement and opportunities, which includes our academic support programs for writing and quantitative skills, our peer tutoring program, our accessible education program, our fellowships office, study abroad, and our fantastic Center for Learning in Action, which is our experiential education hub. I oversee the registrar's office, health and wellness centers, the chaplain's office, and also our Office of Sexual Assault Prevention and Response.
Thanks to you both. And I just want to thank you again for being here. As I'm sure everybody can tell, Marlene and Ngoni have busy weeks, and I'm grateful to them for carving out time this weekend to spend with all of you. So just to give everybody a sense of how we're going to do this, we received a number of pre-submitted questions. So I've grouped those together, and we'll start out by talking through some of those topics, but we'll also be sure to leave time towards the end to take questions that come in through the Q&A feature. So please feel free to start popping questions into there, and we'll address as many of those as possible towards the end. So Marlene, I'm going to start with you. A number of people have asked about how students get acclimated to life on campus academically, socially, and beyond. And I think it's especially on people's minds this year, since the students will be joining us in the fall. We'll be coming off what has been an incredibly challenging and in many cases really disruptive last 18 months. So can you talk a little bit about first year orientation, the entry system, academic advising, all the variety of things that we do to help students transition successfully?
Absolutely. So from the moment that students arrive on campus, they join an entry, which is a living group of anywhere between 20 and 40 first-year students who live and work and socialize with 3 to 4 older students called junior advisors. These are junior Williams students who have decided that they're really invested in being welcoming ambassadors and older, wiser friends to the first-year students. The entries are, like the student body as a whole, incredibly diverse. They include students with a wide range of backgrounds and perspectives, hometowns, political and religious views, personal interests, etc. And the intentional community building is really by design. Students, through the process of living and working together, and soccer fields and musical endeavors and volunteer activities and all of those things that they will do here. Doing that in close proximity with others is a way to practice right from the beginning one of the most fundamental skills that we really hope that students will learn while they're here at Williams, which has to do with how to build a strong, cohesive community. It involves things like being willing to share your viewpoints, to respectfully disagree with others, to try your hand at changing someone's mind from time to time. Maybe most challenging, to try to be willing to change your own mind, and just to remain open to all of the ways in which other people can surprise you, and to find points of connection amidst difference with your peers, faculty, and staff that are all part of the Williams community. That's how community is built and sustained, and it starts right from the beginning. Our junior advisors live with the first year students, and they're there to help them make the transition to college and find their way here at Williams. They're working on things like community building, helping students weave a fabric of relationships with new people, and to learn how to navigate the place, both literally, like where is the dining hall, where is the health center, and metaphorically, how to navigate this brand new and very exciting place. Our orientation program is called First Days. It's a little over a week long, and it is the kickoff to the welcoming process. It focuses on, I would say, three things: community building, health, safety, and well-being, and transitioning into the academic life of the college. Partway through the orientation program, students take a breather and participate in what we call ETH Ventures. And there's a variety of options for those kind of breakout orientation programs. One of them, it focuses on outdoor adventuring like backpacking and canoeing and art in nature. There's another one that focuses on social justice and the environment, one that focuses on leadership development, one that focuses on Williamstown and the Berkshires, another that focuses on the arts, particularly in this community that is very rich in all kinds of arts, and one that is focused on first year fall athletes and really focuses on how to balance work and sport together. We also offer special pre-orientation programs for our first generation college students and for international students. So that gives you a sense of the welcoming piece. The last piece I'll mention, which might be fun to take a look at, is, and I believe you can take a look at it online, is our Purple Key Fair. This is our annual fair of all of the registered student organizations. There are so many. And if you're a student who has an interest that is not already represented by a student organization, you can start your own. But you can check it out online. If you go to the Williams webpage and type in Purple Key Fair, you can get a sense of the richness of all of the organizations. And at that Purple Key Fair, students from each of those organizations are there and really eager to meet students and recruit students. So it's another way to ease the transition to Williams.
Great, thanks, Marlene. You talked a little bit about the entry system, and some questions are coming through the Q&A about what upper class housing looks like, and specifically some questions about whether there are opportunities to live within any kind of affinity housing at Williams. So would you be able to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Happy to talk a little bit about upper class housing. First of all, we guarantee housing for all 4 years, and most students remain on campus all 4 years at Williams. There's a very small group of seniors, somewhere around 100 or so seniors, who can apply to live off campus if they choose, but otherwise everybody's here on campus. And the options for upper class students include traditional dorms, as well as co-ops that are like mini houses. We have a quiet housing program. And we are very excited about a brand new addition to our housing options for upper class students that's actually going to begin next year, what we're calling Tapsee Housing. That's theme, affinity, programmatic special interest housing. And it's launching this year. And so upper class students can apply to develop a special house around a special interest or affinity. And for next year, we're hoping to launch 3 special interest or affinity houses on campus. We don't know yet what they will be. It depends on student interest, which will guide those. And upper class students can apply to live in those houses.
Great, thanks, Marlene. Ngoni, we've heard from a lot of students who are interested in hearing specifically about both the experience of students at Williams who are from historically underrepresented groups, and then what the college does to promote community and an inclusive community for students. So can you talk about any of the work that's already underway, and then maybe work that lies ahead, so students have a sense of what they'd be providing to find?
Absolutely. I would say, by way of sort of opening, starting to answer that question, that we have a multifaceted, layered, and integrated approach to supporting and welcoming students from a whole host and range of backgrounds and identities. Much of that work centers and is through our Davis Center. And as I've flagged, we support student affinity groups across a whole range uh, of cleavages, race and ethnic identity, gender identity, sexuality, geographic location, and backgrounds, and of course, many overlaying intersections of that. Um, Also through the Davis Center and by way of beginning to build connections and community and to allow and enable students to feel welcome and included and to be part of the community and belong. The center, the Davis Center hosts and provides a series of workshops that they offer to students, some of which happen during first days. Workshops around, for example, Identity 101, workshops around navigating group dynamics, particularly within residential contexts, facilitating difficult and challenging conversations among groups, what it might mean to be an ally, and allyship. So this is kind of the series of uh, supports and programming around, I would say, in service of Williams is a place for you, and you can find community here. While I describe the things that are already in place, one of the things I also want to stress is that our disposition here isn't we've got it all figured out and all you need to do is just plug into what already exists, but rather it's a disposition of we also want to hear what communities, what configurations um, of engagement students are interested in creating when they get here and supporting students along the way. So it's a combination of existing structures as well as those that students propose. Through the Office of Special Academic Programs, we also have a whole series of engagements that are organized along supporting students of underrepresented groups in and through Williams and beyond, all the way through for one of our programs, uh, graduate school, through the Mellon Mays Undergraduate Research Fellowship. So this is sort of the series and the cluster of work that the office is engaging in service of creating a campus community where everybody belongs.
Thanks, Ngoni. So Marlene, Ngoni just talked on several different dimensions of diversity within the student body. And one of the things that's true of our students is that they come from many places near and far. And so for some, they travel a long way to get here. And for many, they leave behind certain sort of comforts of home. And so I wonder if you can talk a little bit about, just helping students and families understand the day-to-day. So first of all, how the college helps with transportation as students are coming to campus and maybe if they have the opportunity to leave over breaks, and then also a little bit about the dining program. So they have a sense of what they'd be eating, where they'd be eating, and what that might look like.
I am always happy to talk about food, but I will start with transportation. So Williamstown, if you have not yet been here, is an absolutely beautiful place nestled in a valley in the Berkshires. It is not immediately near any major airport. So the closest airports are in Albany, which is about an hour away. Sometimes students fly in and out of JFK in New York, or through Logan in Boston, or or Hartford. And we do, around the times of breaks, schedule shuttles to help students get back and forth to the major airports and to get to campus. I would love to talk a little bit about dining. We have a relatively new director of dining services who is incredibly engaging and passionate about food, and it really shows in the dining options that we have. We have a range of options. We have 3 main dining halls. They have different menus running at each of them. So you can check and see kind of where you want to go based on what you're in the mood for. And then there's a constellation of other food options. We have the 82 Grill, the Eco Cafe, a coffee bar. We have a snack bar and a late night option for food outside regular meal hours. I would say that that the big emphasis in dining services is on, first of all, sustainability and featuring local food producers as much as possible, a real emphasis on healthy and fresh food and options, an emphasis on variety because people come with all kinds of palates and interests and passions about food. So there's a lot of variety in the dining. We have themed meals. There's halal and kosher options. There's vegetarian and gluten-free and soy-free vegan options. Specialty meals in observance of cultural and religious holidays. We have a pretty active student dining group that works closely with our director of dining to share their ideas about what they'd like to see. We have a special family recipe program. So if you have something that you just love that somebody in your family makes from home, you can share that recipe with our dining services staff, and they will try to whip up some of students' favorite hometown recipes. Very, very attuned to medical and allergy related dietary needs. So students are encouraged, if they have special needs in that regard, to set up a meeting with our executive chef and with our dining services nutritionist as soon as they begin dining with us, so that we can make sure that we're meeting any kind of special medical or other allergy related dietary needs.
Thanks, Marlene. Ngoni, I'm going to switch gears back to you. A lot of families have asked about whether the diversity that exists among students at Williams is mirrored among the faculty and staff with whom they'll be working on campus. So both in the people and then also in the types of courses that are taught within the curriculum, the types of co-curricular opportunities that students have. So could you just try to address that as a whole?
Yes. In the same way that the college has been very thoughtful and aggressive in ensuring that the students we recruit to come to campus come from diverse backgrounds, we've been similarly focused on the shape and composition of our faculty and staff. Though the composition of faculty and staff, while quite diverse, and I'll talk about my own experience since arriving in 2007, doesn't quite match that of the students. It has changed significantly in my time here. I think in terms of faculty composition, we're upwards of 26-27% faculty of color on the tenure line. The staff composition is a little bit behind that, but certainly has been changing and transforming quite rapidly over the last 3 or 4 years as we have adopted a staff diversity initiative. I think when I arrived on campus in 2017, I was in my own unit, probably the second or third faculty of color in my unit. That has changed quite significantly over the years, and so too has it across the campus. So the embodied diversity of the faculty has really changed quite a bit in the last 14, 15 years. And with that, or rather along with that, has been a significant shift as well in the curricular offerings across the college, not just because of hiring more faculty of color, but also because of the college's intentional investment in interdisciplinary programs and cultural studies programs that have added to the diversity of the curriculum, so that students arriving on campus today will encounter a faculty that is more diverse, certainly, than it was when I got here in 2007, and curricular offerings across all the divisions that are much more enriched than they were when I arrived in 2007. I think since that time, we've adopted, the faculty have voted in, as far as I can remember. Marlene, remind me if I forget some, I think 3 or 4 new programs, among them a public health program, an Arabic studies major. We have invested in and adopted and revised our environmental studies program. So the range and suite of things that is available to students, as well as who's teaching those has changed quite as well. Similarly, what's available for students in the co-curricular domain has been enriched. I'm always amazed when I talk with my advisees at just the plurality of the things that they get up to outside of the classroom, and much of that is a student initiated. It seems to me, I tell the joke that if you put 2 Williams students together in a room and come back 3 days later, they'll have formed 5 different organizations that they're participating in. An a cappella group here, a dance group there, and then this, that, and the other. And so that is that kind of the richness of the co-curricular activities available on campus. And there I really want to stress the degree of independence and autonomy students have in creating, joining, groups and activities that they're interested in. Some artistic, some cultural, some athletics, or physical. I think my first few years, I was struck by just how many students, based on where my faculty house was at the time, would be out on Saturday mornings doing ultimate frisbee, which I didn't realize at the time wasn't actually organized by anyone other than the students. But there were hundreds of students doing sort of ultimate frisbee. So I guess the general and broad answer is, we've been expanding in that direction.
Terrific. Thanks, Ngoni. Marlene, I think logically, lots of families have student health and wellness on their minds, again, probably more than ever before. So this is a big one. Can you talk about the many ways we think about student health and wellness, physical health, mental health, thinking about the ways that we support sort of healthy lifestyles on campus? And as I'm just scrolling through the Q&A, there are some questions too, just I think in trying to understand sort of fee structures associated with any of this. So if you could use that too. Thanks.
Sure, absolutely. I'm really happy to talk about health and wellness, which is something that we care deeply about here at Williams. We know that the students who come here have worked incredibly hard to get here, including throwing themselves more than 100% into not just their academics, but all kinds of other passions that they have. And we know that when they get here, they're going to wholeheartedly throw themselves into academics and athletics and arts and music and social justice and community service, all sorts of other endeavors that they probably can't even imagine yet, but they're going to find when they get here. And it's a really full life, which is wonderful. Um, uh, and while they're going to be incredibly effective, we know that because that's who they are. They're going to be full of passion and eager to make the most of their time here at Williams. There's also going to be times that go less smoothly. That's a fact because we're humans and all of us go through times that are not perfectly smooth. Everybody needs a helping hand at some point or another during their time here. And we provide that support in a lot of different ways, a lot of which are intertwined. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the kinds of support that we have. We have a model that I like to call the no wrong first door model, which means there's support in lots of different pockets on campus. And no matter which avenue a student takes, there's no wrong choice because we're a small place and we work really closely with each other. So we have deans in the dean's office, we have faculty academic advisors, chaplains, health educators, healthcare professionals, coaches, student life staff, Davis Center staff, campus safety, career advisors, and more. And they all work together to form a kind of integrated network of encouragement and guidance for students. And as I said, no matter which point is the most comfortable entry point for students, it's a way to get connected to then a whole network of resources and support. I would highlight that one really remarkable source of support and encouragement for our students comes from our faculty. Our student ratio is 7-to-1, which gives our students the opportunity to get to know faculty incredibly well. And the faculty who come to Williams and choose Williams because they want to be at a place that puts undergraduates in the center of the college's universe. And our faculty are passionate not just about their own teaching and their scholarship, but they're passionate about our students, both as scholars and as people. And that passion shows and enables our students to form really close relationships and mentorships with faculty that last long beyond Williams. And they're a really important source of support, in addition to all of the other staff members that you might more naturally think of as a place to go for support. We pay special attention to two issues that are always of concern on college campuses. That's alcohol, substance use, and safe sexual behavior on campus. Our emphasis is on prevention in both of those areas, and that starts right from the get-go in orientation and continues throughout students' time on campus. And as you know, there's a strong relationship between alcohol and substance use and sexual assault. So a lot of our prevention work is designed to address both of those issues at the same time. Our prevention work focuses on education about what a healthy relationship looks like, what respect means in the context of a relationship, how to identify and communicate about boundaries, about what affirmative consent means, how to ask for and how to express it, and how to be an effective bystander. That is, how do you identify when one of your peers is in a high-risk situation, and how can you intervene in a way that can reduce risk? So our prevention work is really built into the fabric of the campus and timed to kind of meet students where they are in terms of the new challenges, leadership roles that they're taking on. So our prevention work starts during first days, but then continues in entry talks during winter study, which is our January plan. Any sophomore who wants to become a leader for our EAF Venture program receives additional training. Juniors who are interested in becoming junior advisors get training. Students who become athletic captains get training. Seniors who choose to live off campus get training. Students who study abroad. So the prevention work continues at every stage of students' development on campus. Speaking about health more broadly, we have a fully staffed student health services program. It includes nurses, nurse practitioners, a physician, health educators, as well as mental health professionals. And appointments with any of our medical staff are free and unlimited, no cost associated with our medical services here on campus. There is also an on-call availability, both for any kind of crisis, medical or mental health crises, and we could coordinate care with our own services on campus, but also with local specialists and hospitals if the need arises. Our mental health services are provided by our Integrative Wellness service. And the name actually tells you quite a lot about our approach to well-being on campus. We are really committed to helping students learn how to live well while simultaneously doing all the things that they care about and want to do on campus. But the trick is to figure out how to work hard while simultaneously also taking good care of themselves as whole people. So that is really the emphasis for integrative wellness. And integrative wellness offers one-on-one and group therapy options, but they also offer a lot of education on skill building, things like meditative practices and other kinds of self-care skills that are really helpful to keep healthy folks healthy over time here at Williams.
Thanks for all that, Marlene. So Ngoni, I'm going to put you on the spot. In addition to the many things you do at Williams, you're also the parent of a high school senior who is on the precipice of making a decision about where to enroll next fall. Any words of wisdom you want to share with the crowd about sort of what it's been like navigating this last year, and then just looking ahead to the journey that will begin in a few months?
I don't know about words of wisdom, but maybe a few thoughts. Even though I've done these sessions for a number of years now, and have said congratulations, I think this year that means a lot more to me, both hearing people say congratulations and also saying congratulations, because I understand much more intimately now everything that is taken for you students and family members to get to this point. So congratulations. The process for us, and I'm sure for you as well, was a really strange one. Started with the disruption, I think, for us last March, when campuses started shutting down, was precisely the moment we were hoping to go on campus visits. So we had this whole plan of campus visits in place, and then there were none, and had to combination of panic, readjust, and it shifted the search process in, I think, interesting ways. I think our son ended up applying to schools that weren't part of that trip. And so that was a very interesting shift in many ways. Being at this place of relief, he's going to college somewhere, we now know. So one weight has been taken off our shoulders. At least we know he'll go to college somewhere, but replaced by another, which is the decision. And what little, I don't know whether it's wisdom, or at least the way I'm approaching it is, the stakes seem so much lower now than they were, months and months ago, when it was all really uncertain and up in the air. And I've been trying to tell my son constantly that ultimately he can go to one, and there's no wrong choice. That college, wherever he chooses to go, it's going to be an incredible experience for him. So lowering the stakes as much as we can has been our approach. And preparing, I think, for what many parents have been preparing for, which is kind of letting go. So part of for us has been trying to be in the background as best we can, even though we've got, I don't really think you should be thinking about that, but trying to be as much in the background as possible. So I share much of your excitement, anxiety, and wishing I were wherever he chooses, wishing I were going with him, but I can't.
Thanks, Ngoni. I think those were some words of wisdom. Thank you. So we have just a couple of minutes left, and I've been scrolling through the Q&A, and I think we've got a lot of really specific questions coming in, and a lot from students who are trying to envision what August might look like. I think rightfully, we've all been living with so much uncertainty for more than the last year, and so I think students are craving knowing, what do I expect as move-in day approaches? So Marlene, I'm just gonna pepper you with a couple of quick ones. So as you might expect, there's a question about whether Williams will require all students to be vaccinated before arriving on campus. And then if you can share anything about kind of what we anticipate the move-in day experience might look like. I know we're all hoping it will be quite different from last year, but anything you can share about what families might be able to expect on those fronts.
Sure. Let me just say that I too crave certainty. I love certainty, and we're in an uncertain time. We're very hopeful that the fall will look much more like a pre-COVID fall than not. We have not yet figured out. We're in the process of determining whether or not we're going to require vaccines for students, and we will know more about that in the next couple weeks. And really, that decision is going to have an impact on some other decisions about how the arrival process works, how housing works. For example, we have a lot of things in place right now that are really built around a very strong surveillance testing model. We have students that are in pods where they share residential space in a bathroom with each other, which is really meant to contain COVID so that only a small number of students would be in close contact with any other student, not being socially distanced and masked. And it's not clear yet at this point whether we're going to need to be testing at the same rate that we were. That's really going to depend on our vaccination policy, also what the community vaccination rate looks like as well. We're keeping a close eye on that. I expect that we'll have some more concrete information, certainly in another month or so. So stay tuned.
Great, thanks, Marlene. And we're getting close to the end here. So I apologize that we didn't get to all the questions in the Q&A. As always, you can email admission@williams.edu to get connected with all the right information on campus. There's also another upcoming opportunity to get sort of final questions answered. So Marlene will be back for that event with some of her colleagues from Student Life, and that'll take place on Monday, April 26th at 8:00 p.m. Eastern time. So please fire away with questions by email or phone before then, and then I hope you'll have the chance to join us then. Thank you so much, Ngoni and Marlene, for being here, and thank you all for joining us today. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day of virtual previews, and again, on behalf of everybody at Williams, congratulations on this really extraordinary achievement at a most extraordinary moment in all of our lives. And we can't wait to welcome you to campus next fall. Take care and be well.